Good day, fellow gardeners. In this video, I'm gonna share with you my top 6 herbs that I grow in my container garden. My number one, or I would say my number 6, I should say, herb that I consider uh, worth it to plant as a container plant in your garden is a basil. For ease of maintenance, I scored this a 4. Yeah, there with the maximum points allowed as 5, just for this purpose. And I don't give it a 5, the reason being it's a slow grower initially. And initially, in my experience, you do not put a lot of fertilizer on this herb because it will harm the plant and it will burn its leaves. Okay, so be gentle on the fertilization initially and just let it take its own pace, and once its roots are settled in the container where it's growing, it's gonna accelerate in its growth. Okay, so second criteria for longevity, I assign it a 3, and it's related to the cold and heat sensitivity as well, being a 3. The reason being they are not as cold as hardy as the other herbs that I have in the garden, and unless you have a greenhouse where you can put them when it's too cold, then and you have the time to do it, put it in the greenhouse, put it out, or I guess you can leave it in the greenhouse. I don't have a greenhouse in my case, so I don't know how it works with that, but mainly I put my plants in the garage when it's really cold. But when the temperature is like even 40s, yeah, this herb really gets affected easily. Okay, and for use, I give it a 5, because once it's grown to its like almost to its adult height, or anywhere even before that, you can start using its leaves for any type of cooking, and that's what I use it for mainly. I give it a 5 because I use this the basil leaves in so many of the recipes that me and my wife do cook. My number 5 herb that I grow in my garden in a container is an oregano. Okay, for ease of maintenance, it's a 5. It really is a very easy herb, a very easy plant to grow. It doesn't suffer a lot with any type of diseases. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of some burning there because I put a little bit too much fertilizer. But this type of oregano is I believe this is the Greek oregano. And I have another one that I can show you as well. I'll show that a bit later. It's I think the English or American oregano. But for ease of maintenance, definitely it's a 5. And longevity, it's also a 5. And it can withstand the temperature, the average winter temperature of like high 30s or even mid 30s degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so they're pretty tough, and by the time it reaches 32 degrees or below, it definitely needs to be covered or transferred to a greenhouse or brought over inside your home, like your garage, for example. Okay, so for ease of maintenance, it's a 5. Longevity, it's a 5 as well. Yeah, main reason being since it can like withstand mild, moderate winter temperatures. Actually, I have this one from last year. I think it was May of last year, so it's almost a year now, and it's still producing a lot of leaves. And so longevity is a 5 on this one. And cold and heat sensitivity, it's also a 5, as I mentioned, because it can withstand the temperature, the cold temperature pretty well, and its use is a 3. I give it a 3 mainly because I don't use oregano much in my cooking, but I do use it every now and then. And actually, I do dry the leaves of this oregano and keep it as a spice in my spice jars. Okay, actually, I have a picture of an oregano leaves being dried right here. You can see that? That's an oregano leaf from the other oregano that I have. Here is the oregano that I have. This other American, I would say, maybe an American, most common oregano type. And as you can see, it's still thriving after like almost a year, and it's I think putting some flowers in there. You can actually use these flowers as well as a spice as well. You have to separate them from the leaves, and the flowers can be used in some cooking recipes, I guess. And I did keep some of the flowers in one spice jar that I have from last year from this same plant. So this plant is almost a year now, and it's still thriving very good. The next herb, number 4, is my Italian parsley. Okay, this is, I think maybe a few more weeks I can use this plant, but after that I don't think it's usable. It's now putting up flowers, and the leaves that are growing are no longer your typical parsley leaves. Okay, and this has also been grown for almost a year now, and my score for this one, ease of maintenance, is also a 5 because it's fairly easy to grow, no issues at all, it grows pretty quick. Longevity is also a 5. As you can see, this is almost a year old plant, or maybe even more. Maybe I got this in April, so it's probably a year old now. I have a replacement parsley that is growing in the other container bed over there. So for longevity, it's pretty good. It's 5. Cold and heat sensitivity, it's also a 5. Mid 30s is no problem. By the time it hits 30°F, you have to bring it inside or put it in your greenhouse or cover it with a blanket or something, cloth. Okay, and for use, it's a 5. For use, it's a 5 because I use it a lot. I cook a lot of Italian dishes, and at least maybe twice a week I take leaves from my parsley. My number 3 herb that I grow in my garden in container is my Mexican tarragon. You can see I have 3 containers. I got so excited last year, I just got 6 of them, and I'll tell you the reason why. But first, criteria: ease of maintenance. Tarragon is a 5. It can withstand heat as well as mild winter temperature. Mid 30s is fine. Even 32°, I think. Yeah, this oreganos can withstand fairly easily. Even below 32, like 28, it's not a problem. I haven't covered this oregano during the winter. I only did bring them inside the garage during the deep freeze that happened here in Texas, where the temperature dipped like in the teens. But 28, high 20s, no problem for this herb. So that's ease of maintenance, it's a 5. Longevity is a 4. This plant has been with me since this 6th set of plant, to be specific, around sometime October of last year. So I would say it's like with me 7 months now. And longevity, they don't really last, maybe maximum a year. I'm not sure. It's just on my experience. Like they slowly run out the leaves and no new growth comes out after that. So slowly you're having a plant that is gonna diminish in its size, or I would say the number of leaves that it puts up. Okay, so that's the longevity. It's a 4 for this plant. And as I mentioned, cold and heat sensitivity, it's a 5. Ease of maintenance, it's a 5. And its use, it's a 6. And I give it a 6 out of maximum of 5. So I'm exaggerating basically. The reason being, I use this herb every single day. Not as a spice or a mix for cooking. Okay, I use it every now and then for cooking, but I use it every day as a tea. It's a pretty good tea. It's the Mexican tarragon. There's a lot of different types of tarragon, but I have this Mexican tarragon, and it is very good as tea to drink in the night. You can search it up. It helps with your digestive system. It helps with any digestive issues, and it also helps in giving you a quality sleep. Okay, so search it up, how to make a tea with the tarragon. It's fairly easy. Just boil the leaves, and just strain the liquid from the leaves, and you get your liquid as your tea. Number 2 herb that I would say good to plant as a container herb in your garden is my thyme. It's a thyme. Okay, now for ease of maintenance, it's definitely a 5. No issues at all. They grow pretty quick. As you can see, I have another baby thyme there, and this has been with me, this one right here, for a year now, and it's still thriving. And I have my second one over there. So ease of maintenance, no problem. Longevity, as I said, no issues. I have assigned 5 points as well. This one has been with me for a year, or almost a year, and it's still, I think it's still gonna grow for another year. It's still gonna be here for another year, I would say. So longevity is definitely a 5. Cold and heat sensitive hardiness is also a 5 for this. Same thing as my other plants. Mild winter temperatures, no problem. Like mid-30s, it's not an issue with this plant. So maybe around 32 degree when it really gets to the freezing temperature. Yeah, I did cover this. Same thing with my other plants except the tarragon, which is really tough. So yep, that's for the cold and heat hardiness. It's a 5. Cold hardness, it's a 5. And its use is a 5. I use it frequently, just like my parsley. Yeah, and this thyme can be used in so many different dishes. The famous one being your I use it for like beef pot roast. There you go. It's a very popular dish here in the United States, and you can partner this with my number 1 as your top your main herbs for your pot roast. And if you smell the aroma of the thyme, a fresh thyme, wow, it's really very good. The aroma is nothing compared to the one that you can buy from the store. So I give it a 5 for use, and that's my thyme, number 2. Now number 1 is no other than my rosemary. There you go. That's my baby rosemary over there, and I'll show you the rosemary that I have for more than a year now. It's right here. Okay, this has been with me for more than a year, and I think no problem. It's in a container. It would still probably go for more another year. Just make sure you put good uh, additional soil amendments and fertilize it and take care of it. It would still thrive. So rosemary, that's my number one. Ease of maintenance, definitely a 5. I can give it a 6. It is a plant with no issues at all. It is very, very hardy. You know, it will not have any problem as long as you take care of it. Like even the mildest watering, it will survive. Longevity is a 5. Okay, as I said, this one can easily live in a container for 2 years or more. I'm actually thinking of planting this in the ground next time and see how it does. But in a container, it's been pretty successful with me. So yeah, that's the rosemary. Longevity is a 5. Cold and heat sensitivity, it's a 5. Freezing temperature, no issues with this herb. Below freezing, probably need to bring it inside. But yeah, cold hardiness, yeah, no issues at all with your rosemary. And use, it's a 5. I use it a lot of the dishes. And you can search it up, maybe even a lot of the dishes that you know how to cook. Maybe a good amount of those will have rosemary as an herb that's, you know, needed or added, right? And one other reason why I make it a 5 is that I've observed, like, buying a rosemary herb spice in the store, it's not the same as the one that you grow. It's like pretty dried, and it just look old, and the aroma that you get from a freshly picked rosemary is nothing compared to or I would say the opposite. The one that you buy from the store, the aroma is nothing compared to a freshly picked rosemary. So based on my experience, this is my number one herb that really thrives in a container garden. That's it for this video. My 6 herbs that I would say I would grow in my container garden every year. Thanks for watching, and if you like my videos, go ahead and go to my channel and see the other posts that I have giving tips and information on growing container garden. Thank you, and enjoy your garden.